The most heated rivalry in NFL history. Big shout out to Red Zone for the video about to react to. Hey, I love me some rivalries. Listen, I'm a Giants fan, so I hate the Eagles and the Cowboys and the Commanders. Yeah, bomb back.
NFL teams have the most violent rivalries of all time.
Damn!
Is still down.
One player even got a nose
Oh!
Oh, look at the bloody nose.
Damn!
These are the biggest NFL rivalries of all time. And we got to start with the biggest and best rivalry right now. Between the Bills and the Chiefs.
Man.
Even though this rivalry started in the 60s, there were only a few games between 1990 and 2000 that were even worth remembering. And by the 2000s, the rivalry basically flatlined. The Bills were trapped in a playoff drought for 17 years. And the Chiefs, they weren't much better. A couple of decent runs in the early 2000s were overshadowed by a defense that couldn't block a pass if its life depended on it. By 2012, they were a 2-14 Chiefs.
Damn!
The future was not bright.
The Chiefs used to suck.
Reid.
Can we all just admit Andy Reid's the greatest play designer of all time? That's not disputable. That is coaching at its greatest.
This man single-handedly saved the Chiefs. In 1 year, they went from being the lowest scoring team in the NFL to an 11-5 playoff team. They had started to find their footing. The only thing they needed was an elite QB. But while the Chiefs were rebuilding, the Bills were still dead. And only a miracle would save them. Then, in a span of 1 year, both teams got exactly what they needed. Patrick Mahomes shot onto the scene to take the Chiefs to the next level. And Josh Allen, basically Buffalo's Jesus Christ, resurrected the Bills. And just like that, the AFC's most irrelevant matchup became the best rivalry in football.
It's crazy how they used to suck, bro.
That is,
now they're like
and I'm
great.
Not trying to sound like I'm selling you a bunch of hyperbole here, but is that not the best rivalry right now in the game?
He's not exaggerating. Every time they meet, the games are chaos.
And they're always epic, right? There's no real blowouts here. They're always something epic.
Yeah, those be the best games ever, bro.
A play to talk about.
And the Ravens Bills.
The first taste of that fire came when the Bills played the Chiefs in Week 6. They weren't quite prepared for him, so they lost. But it felt like the start of something. Then the playoffs hit. Allen finally gets a shot in the AFC Championship, and in the first quarter, takes a 9-0 lead. There's hope. Until Mahomes starts cooking. It takes the Bills 38-24. Allen.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie. Josh Allen has never beat Patrick Mahomes in the freaking playoffs. And it's crazy because last year, I feel like that was a first down that Josh Allen had. I feel like they should have won that game. But hey, what do I know?
Goes to the locker room. The Chiefs to the Super Bowl. But 2020 was just the warm-up for what was to come. In 2021, the Bills are on fire again. They lose their first matchup against Mahomes. They were banking on a postseason revenge anyway. In the divisional round, these guys played one of the greatest games in football history. For the first 3 quarters, they were either tied or separated by a max of 5 points. Then, fourth quarter, Chiefs up 26-21. Josh Allen sprints the team downfield and hits Gabriel Davis for a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. 29-26 Bills. A minute 54 on the clock. Mahomes answers instantly and hits Tyreek Hill. He runs 64 yards.
Crazy.
Touchdown. Then, with 1 minute left, Allen answers Mahomes. Finds Davis again and hits his 4th touchdown of the night. And with only 13 seconds left, everyone thought the game was sealed. But then, Mahomes does the impossible.
They're going to have a chance. And they call timeout quickly. They actually have a chance to get Bucker in field goal range here. Down the middle. Oh my goodness! It's going to be a 48-yard attempt. Only 48 yards. That's what it'll be. So hundreds of thousands.
High ball game. Crazy, bro.
It's going to overtime.
The Chiefs actually pull it off. They win in overtime, go to the championship, play the game of the year, and the Bills lose again.
That's crazy. They can't beat them.
The Chiefs may have played the game of the year in 21, but by 2022, Josh Allen was trying to make the play of the year to finally beat the Chiefs. And the craziest part, he actually did it to him.
Fakes left, now taken off. Gonna run for it, he got it! And there he goes!
That boy Josh Allen's a goal. I want him to get a ring,
Play of
bro.
the year in the NFL!
I want him to get a ring.
And play of the year back-to-back is unheard of. But what's also unheard of is the Bills beating the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Yep.
See, in
They never have.
2023, the Chiefs beat the Bills in the divisional playoffs. In 2024, the Bills beat them, but only in the regular season. And in 2025, they lose to the Chiefs in the playoffs for the 4th time in a row. Josh Allen is going to be playing football like he's out for blood by 2026. But while he's attempting the comeback of his life, Falcons and Saints fans will be battling it out down south just for bragging rights. Because the Falcons versus Saints might be the pettiest rivalry in the NFL, but it's also one of the weirdest close ones in the NFL. Neither team is a dynasty. Neither one has more than one ring. And outside the South, most people don't even think about them. Hell, they hate each other so much, they've pretty much forgotten about the other teams in their division. Because inside Atlanta and New Orleans, it's war. But it's not just about football, it's about culture. Atlanta sees itself as the new and improved South. It's flashy, appearance-based, corporate, and the rap capital of the world.
That's where
New
I'm
Orleans,
from.
on the other hand, the exact polar opposite. Messy, soulful, and drunk off of everything. Atlanta throws
I'm from New Orleans, baby. ATLANTHEA, that's where I'm from.
money at skyscrapers and strip clubs, while New Orleans throws beads at drunk tourists from balconies built 300 years ago. So for them, winning in football is less about standings and more about city pride. And you really can't get a rivalry more pure than that. Plus, it's reflected in the games. Because they don't just go for wins, they go for humiliation. Back in 1973, Atlanta got a 62-7 victory over the Saints, their biggest loss in franchise history.
Damn.
And in 78 and 79, the Falcons did it to them again and again, one with just 5 seconds on the clock, and the other with an overtime win. As you might imagine, the Saints had enough by that point, and responded by annihilating the Falcons 37-6 in the next meeting. It took another 11 years for anything major to happen, but in 1991, the most important game in the rivalry came when Atlanta beat the Saints in the playoffs. The only time either team was even good enough to get to the playoffs. Since then, the rivalry has mainly come down to the fans' severe and unreal hate for each other. After the Saints won their first game after Hurricane Katrina, they legit built a statue of Steve Gleason, player who blocked the Falcons' punt. But that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Damn, they made a statue out of him? Yeah, they hate him.
Comes to their pettiness. When the Falcons blew their 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl, Saints fans bought billboards all over Atlanta with screenshots of 28-3 covering them. The
Nah,
Falcons'
that's
best clapback,
crazy.
A fan literally stomping on a Saints fan's head in 2024. Not
Yo.
clever, not classy, just Atlanta. But
Oh,
as
them boys
messed up as that
fighting.
is, that's the beauty of this rivalry. No one cares about trophies, just pride, pettiness, and two cities that will do anything to get back at each other. But the
It's kind of like Michigan, Ohio State in college.
Falcons-Saints rivalry was just a warm-up. Now, we gotta talk about a real rivalry between two teams in black, both built on violence, and both looking like villains straight out of a comic book. On one hand, you had Al Davis's Renegade Raiders, famous for
playing on the fringe of what was legal and beyond the fringe.
But on the other hand, the Steelers. And with the Steelers came their steel curtain. A defense that consistently made quarterbacks' lives hell. And what do you pair a city known for crime and blue-collar guys with a city known for more crime and even more blue-collar guys? You get the rivalry of the decade.
Yo. Raiders-Steelers represents everything that was great about the 1970s and the way the NFL used to play.
For most rivalries on this list, they begin with a new team or a new coach or a series of dirty plays. But for the Raiders-Steelers, you can pinpoint it down to the play. Snatches it inches above the ground before running it in for the win. Steelers fans called it the immaculate reception.
That's
Raiders,
fire,
the
bro.
immaculate deception. To this day,
Oh,
people
wow.
still argue whether or not that ball hit the ground.
The immaculate reception is in Pittsburgh. You learn that right after you go to school.
Immaculate deception.
Wait, he didn't catch
They're
it?
still crying about he didn't catch it. He caught that ball.
And I go to my grave saying that, the ball hit the ground.
Not gonna lie, if you think it hit the ground, that's an unbelievably high amount of coping. But that was the play that started everything. Because after that,
Well, did it? Why didn't they do a replay? They didn't have damn cameras back in the day?
these two teams couldn't stop running into each other. And every time, someone left bloodied.
Damn.
1974-76, the Raiders and Steelers met 3 straight times in the AFC Championship. And in those games, football was a loose term. If you didn't lead with stitches, you didn't really play. These playoff battles were so brutal that Steelers coach Chuck Noll accused the Raiders of having a criminal element on defense. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. But the Steelers weren't exactly innocent either. The Steelers had Mel Blount, a quarterback in a linebacker's body, and the Raiders had George Atkinson and Jack Tatum. All 3 of these guys didn't just try to tackle players, they tried to erase them. And players
That's a
did
dirty
get
hit.
erased. Tatum was literally named the assassin for hits that bordered on assault. George Atkinson knocked out Steelers wide receiver Lynn Swann, and Mel Blount literally looked like he was trying to kill Cliff Branch on that play. It's actually insane that he didn't kill him on that play. But in a way, that's what made this rivalry legendary, because it wasn't just playoff stakes. It was playoff stakes mixed with open, unchecked violence. The Raiders lost twice in the AFC Championship before finally breaking through in 1976 and winning the Super Bowl. But the literal scars they left on each other lasted way longer than the trophies. Even today, decades later, you can still feel the hate, because when fans of either team talk, it's never about the playoffs themselves. It's about unfinished business. But even though this next rivalry is unfinished business, there's still more than enough to talk about.
I think this was the best rivalry in football. I believe it was good for the NFL to have the tremendous
Cowboys and the
rivalry between
Redskins?
Dallas
Really?
and the Washington Redskins,
I
and
thought it
that's
was
still
the
going
Eagles.
on.
On one side, you've got the Cowboys, America's team, known for style, flair, and long football dynasties. On the other, Washington, the Redskins, the capital of America, and one of the grittiest, most stubborn teams ever during the height of this rivalry. See, when Dallas joined the NFL in 1960, Washington's owner, George Preston Marshall, hated it. Why? Well, until then, the Redskins didn't just own some of the NFL, they owned the entire South. Their games were live on TV across the region, and suddenly, a brand new Texas team was stealing their market. But worse, Dallas was actually good. They won 2 of their first 4 meetings and tied the other 2. And while the team was stealing games and airtime from the Redskins, Dallas fans were pouring gasoline on the fire. First, they tried releasing chickens into the stadium, but were caught by a game official. But it wasn't some random ref. It was actually the Redskins general manager, Marshall himself. And when that was released, the fans doubled down. The next year, right before the Dallas Redskins game, fans dropped off a live turkey in Marshall's bathroom. Coupled that with a brutal 38-10 defeat from
How
the
did he
Cowboys,
even find his
Washington
bathroom?
officially wanted Dallas dead. By the 70s, that hate had turned into war. Normal games turned into battles for NFC dominance. And in 1972, when the teams met in the NFC Championship, Washington came down hard and absolutely smacked Dallas 26-3 for the championship. Unfortunately for Washington, that game was a fluke. In the 1970s, Dallas's coach Tom Landry had built the Doomsday Defense, a unit so stacked it terrorized every offense it faced. Had in QB Roger Staubach, literally nicknamed Captain America, and the Cowboys were on top
that's
of the
hard.
world. From 70
I hate
to
the
79,
Cowboys, though, bro.
Dallas made
I'm a
5
Giants
Super
fan.
Bowls, won 2 of them, and became nationally recognized as America's team. No one in the NFC or NFL had a bigger spotlight, and Washington was seething. While the Cowboys were parading around Lombardi trophies and building a dynasty, Washington was stuck chasing them, only winning 3 out of 10 games in the late 70s. But in 1981, a new face joined the Redskins, and it wasn't a player, it was a coach, Joe Gibbs. The Redskins didn't know it yet, but Gibbs was the silver bullet they needed to take down the Cowboys for good. Because overnight, the Redskins became relevant. And when they added John Riggins as a fullback and Joe Theismann as a QB, they went from irrelevant to a powerhouse. And their offensive line became so insane, they got their own nickname, the Hogs. Yeah, I'd leave the nicknames to the Cowboys, because the Doomsday Defense goes way too hard.
I ain't gonna lie, I hate both of those teams, bro. So what's up, bro? Let's get to the New York Giants.
However, the Cowboys were about to have their own doomsday, because in 1982, everything Gibbs set up finally clicked. Washington beat Dallas in the NFC Championship and then won their first Super Bowl. And they didn't slow down. Throughout the next decade, the Redskins won 3 more Super Bowls under Gibbs. So whether or not Dallas was still America's team, the Redskins were definitely the team of the 80s. 2 football dynasties back-to-back, both trying to one-up each other. It's just something you don't see anymore.
That's
But
crazy.
you
Where's the
definitely don't see it
Giants
with
at,
these
bro?
guys. Because in the 90s, the rivalry got pretty lopsided. After Gibbs retired, Washington lost their way, went back to being a doormat for the Cowboys. Sure, they got their iconic Monday Night Miracle in 2005, and another division clincher in 2012. But the Redskins-Cowboys rivalry was pretty much gone by 2012. And when they changed their name to the Commanders, it straight up died. Luckily, the Commanders weren't the only rivals for the Cowboys. In fact, they were the Cowboys'
I knew it, bro.
smallest
The
problem.
Eagles and the
When it came to the
Cowboys.
Eagles, they hated the Cowboys even more than
I
the
told
Commanders did. And it's not hard to see why. When one team's got guys nicknamed Captain America, the other represents blue-collar America, you end up with Marvel versus Marlboro Reds. But they didn't just hate the Cowboys for their style and looks. They hated them because for the entirety of the 70s, the Eagles only won 3 out of 17 games. Dallas wasn't just beating them, they were styling on them in more ways than one. So when the 80s rolled around, Philly finally had their chance at payback. In the NFC Championship, running was the
For 10 years straight, they got that bout. BTA. Why not never?
Eagles' first Super Bowl trip in franchise history, with the real trophy humiliating the Cowboys with the entire country watching. For the rest of the 80s, they went back and forth every game, with the entire decade ending in a stalemate. But even with a tie in the series, there was still plenty of hate, especially after their matchup in 1987. Because with a 30-20 lead, Eagles coach Buddy Ryan decided to run up the score by taking a fake knee and launching a pass. The pass was incomplete, but there was a flag. So with 2 seconds left, the Eagles took the ball at the 1 and ran it in for the win. Neither coach even looked at each other after the game. And that bad blood only got worse, because in 1989, there was the Bounty Bowl. Yes, before the Saints were caught placing bounties on players, the Eagles were accused of doing it first. Basically, the Cowboys were in a rebuild mode in 1988. Buddy Ryan was taking the Eagles into the playoffs, so when Dallas came into the Thanksgiving game that year, Philly unleashed hell. Troy Aikman took a cheap shot that started the brawl. Then, right at halftime, Cowboys kicker Luis Mendez literally got knocked out cold.
I think he got knocked out. He's going to the wrong sideline. He's groggy. He's either going over there because he doesn't know where he is, or he's going over there to argue with someone.
Both brutal hits, but nothing suspicious yet. Then, after the game, Dallas coach Jimmy Johnson dropped a bomb out of nowhere.
I mean, having bounties on opposing players is not the way it's supposed to be done. We were told last night by a coach, and is confirmed by two different players. There's a $200 bounty on.
They really putting bounties on players. Now you weird, bro. Putting bounties on players like you trying to really end somebody's career. You weird, bro. That's why I hate the Cowboys and the Eagles. Both y'all, bro. It's all about the New York Giants.
A $500 bounty on Troy Aikman. That takes away from the integrity of the game. And I would have said something to Buddy, but he wouldn't stand on the field long enough. He put his big fat rear end into the dressing room.
Obviously, Buddy Ryan denied it all, but Eagles fans, they doubled down. So 2 weeks later came Bounty Ball 2. It was literally called that on TV. Fans were waving bounty signs and trash talking like crazy before the game. And when the game started, they started raining down snow, ice, even batteries right onto the Dallas players and coaches. Philly went on to win again 20-10, but with Dallas taking late hit after late hit, the NFL decided to investigate, and they found millions and millions of absolutely nothing. But it wouldn't have even mattered if they did, because the only thing the Eagles actually care about is beating Dallas. Despite losing to Dallas 6 games straight in the 90s, they get stomped 10 times. They'll cling on to the one time they humiliated Dallas in 95. 2008, and again in 2022, and make every one of them feel like a championship, all because they can't get over losing for 10 years straight. But the teams from this next rivalry know all about losing.
Oh, let me guess. Is the Bears? I saw Bears, so it's the Bears and Packers. I bet you it's the Bears and Packers. Bears and Packers, or Bears and Lions, or Bears and Vikings. One of the three. I guarantee it.
The Bears-Packers rivalry has been going on for over 100 years, with hits started dirty in their very first game. The Bears shut out Green Bay 20-0. 2 years later, players Frank Haney and Tilly Voss got into a fight so bad it became the first ejections for fighting in NFL history.
That's
Didn't
crazy.
stop there. After the Bears killed the Packers 30-3, one fan ran onto the field and dropped the Bears lineman with a one-punch knockout.
A fan?
However, embarrassment went both ways.
This is how football looked back in the day? What the fuck?
Because they've traded years just destroying each other. The Packers once shut out the Bears 5 games in a row, while from 1941 to 1959, the Bears won 30 out of 39 games. Then came the 60s. Green Bay dropped a 49-0 shutout in 1962. But since this was the 60s, people still had manners. No fighting, no fan freakouts. Just one team taking the W and another holding the L. That all changed when the 80s hit. In 1985, Packers staff filled the Bears locker room with horse manure before the game. Packers cornerback was ejected for throwing Walter Payton over a bench. And Packers safety Ken Stills also got kicked for hitting Matt Suey way after the whistle. The Bears' response? They won the game. On top of that, they were still on track for the best season in NFL history. So they got cocky and pulled the most out-of-pocket move of all time. They dropped the song, the Super Bowl Shuffle.
What? Bro, the Bears dropped the song?
Well, they call me sweetness, and I like to dance. Running the ball is like making more mans.
Damn.
We had the goal since training camp to give Chicago a Super Bowl champ. And we're not doing this because we're greedy. The Bears are doing it to feed the needy. We didn't come here to look for trouble. We just come here to do the Super Bowl shuffle.
No joke, the song hit
That's
41 on the
crazy.
Billboard 100 and got nominated for a Grammy. And
What?
it was dropped 2 months before the Super Bowl, which they went on to win 46-10. That's probably the biggest dick move in any sport,
That's
maybe
crazy,
ever, but
bro.
it didn't go unnoticed. The next year, Packers lineman Charles Martin wore a towel with the Bears players' jersey numbers written on it, a literal hit list. And he followed through by body slamming Jim McMahon after the play. And they still lost. But it wouldn't be too long before they got their time to shine. Because from 1989 to, well, now, the Packers have made the Bears irrelevant. And they've dominated so hard that the rivalry is basically dead. But at
Yeah,
least
the Bears kind of suck these days, bro. Let's be real.
it led to one of the hardest player quotes of all time.
It's Rodgers running for the score.
I still own you.
This rivalry isn't about two teams. It's about two players. Because when you talk about Colts Patriots and later Broncos Patriots, what you're really talking about is Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady.
Really, that was a rivalry? It should be Eli Manning and Tom Brady, because guess what? Eli Manning wiped them out twice, bro. One time he was 18-0. Thought she was going to go undefeated. Got cooked by Eli. Helmet catch, David Tyree.
From the early 2000s through the mid-2010s, these two weren't just quarterbacks, they were the playoff gatekeepers. In the beginning, though, it wasn't even a close matchup. Brady's Patriots smothered battered Manning's Colts 3 straight times from 2000 to 2004, twice in the playoffs. Even though Peyton was putting up stats like back-to-back 4,000-yard seasons and breaking Dan Marino's record passer rating with a 121.1, Bill Belichick's defense was his kryptonite. And in 2003, Peyton threw 4 interceptions in the AFC Championship game alone, sending the Pats on to another Super Bowl. It felt like Brady had all the rings and all the clutch moments, while Manning was left with his stats and excuses. By 2006, all hope seemed lost. The Colts meet the Patriots in the AFC Championship again. The Patriots jump
low-key. This is how I think this is how Josh Allen's career is gonna go, bro. Josh Allen's gonna be like Peyton Manning, and Patrick Mahomes is like Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes is gonna be the one with all the rings, like Tom Brady, the legendary guy. And don't get me wrong, Peyton Manning's still legendary, but he only has like 1 ring, bro, or 2 rings, something like that. I think that's exactly how Josh Allen going. He might get 1, maybe 2, but Patrick gonna be the one with 7, 8, 9, 10, bro. That's crazy, right? History really repeats itself.
To a 21-3 lead again, but this time, Manning didn't fold. Slowly but surely, he chipped away at the lead, then engineered a 76-yard touchdown drive before halftime, ending with a field goal that barely got hit.
And Hunter Smith doesn't panic, and Adam Vinatieri says, let me just keep my routine going. Keep the rhythm, and he makes it.
But by the second half, he came out swinging. A pair of long drives turned into rushing scores, and the Colts defense stepped up with a crucial stop on Brady. By the fourth quarter, the impossible became possible. The Colts clawed back from 18 points down, the largest comeback in conference championship history, and sealed it 38-34. And Manning finally went to the Super Bowl. For once, he had the stats, the bragging rights, and the ring. By the early 2010s, Manning was wearing orange instead of blue. Now it was Patriots versus Broncos. And somehow, the stage was even bigger. But 2013 was the peak. Again, AFC Championship, and again, Peyton versus Tom. Manning comes out insanely hot. He was surgical with every pass. By halftime, Denver's up 13-3. But in the third quarter, he drops a bomb drive. 94 yards, capped with a touchdown to Demarius Thompson. Suddenly, it's 20-3. At this point, all Brady can do is sit back and watch. But Manning finishes the game with 400 yards and a 26-16 win. He didn't have a whole lot of time to celebrate, though, given his absolute beatdown in the Super Bowl at the hands of the Seahawks. And on top of that humiliation, the next year they lost to Manning's old squad, the Colts, in the playoffs. And Brady went on to win that Super Bowl. But in a weird way, 2014 almost felt like a trade-off. Brady stayed on top of Manning in their rivalry, but he also avenged Peyton's brutal Super Bowl loss to the Seahawks by beating them himself. And yet, the final word didn't belong to Brady. Tom Brady is indisputably the greatest quarterback of all time. Manning got the leave after beating his #1 rival, winning the whole thing, and getting the last laugh, closing the book to one of the greatest quarterback rivalries the NFL has ever seen. But this rivalry was about 2 guys going head-to-head. The Steelers versus Ravens rivalry was about 2 teams going blood for blood. But before the Ravens even existed, they were the Browns. QB Ben Roethlisberger joined the Steelers in 2004, because Ben was raw on the field. He literally went 13-1 that season. The only game he lost? His first game against the Ravens. The Ravens legit hospitalized the Steelers' original quarterback, and Ben subbed in. His big welcome to the NFL moment, but that wouldn't be the last time a player's story would be written with blood. And Ravens linebacker Ray Lewis was the Punisher himself, dealing out a brutal tackle to Jerome Bettis in Amos Zeraway, and even a season-ending broken collarbone to Rashard Mendenhall. But Ray Lewis was the least of the Steelers' worries. During their 2006 matchup with the Ravens, Big Ben got sacked a record 9 times. At that point, the Steelers were in desperate need of an answer for the human wrecking ball that was Ray Lewis. And how do you fight a dirty player with an even dirtier one? And for the Steelers, that was James Harrison. He was getting fined every week, drilling anyone who crossed him. And in 2007, he
literally said that his goal is to like make people leave on a stretcher and kill people. That's crazy.
Finally spilt Ravens blood. But Harrison was just the beginning. In 2006, the Steelers also signed Ryan Clark. And although it took him a few years to get going, by 2008, he was a missile. It was this year that every Steelers-Ravens matchup was a one-score slugfest. Every hit could have been a season ender. But in the AFC Championship, the violence hit a new peak. Ed Reed went in for an aerial slam. Both QBs got hit every play. Linemen were fighting for no reason. And even the Steelers wide receiver got in on the action. But the worst one, a Ryan Clark tackle that knocked out Willis McGahee. After years of enduring the Ravens hitman, the Steelers were finally able to deal out some pain, and they won.
Flacco, ball in the air and intercepted by Carter. That will do it.
The Ravens went home with their tails between their legs after the most brutal playoff game in history. But that wasn't the end. In 2009, both regular season games went to overtime, both decided by 3 points. Suddenly, it was back to the playoffs. It was nowhere near as violent as the first one, but the victory cut way deeper.
Wow.
And that victory went to the Ravens. So now, it was the Steelers' turn for revenge. The rivalry hit the highest point yet.
The fact that they're both in the same division just adds to the hatred. That game should not be played on a Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. The Steelers-Ravens should be played in a dark alley at midnight.
Damn.
Ravens player Haloti Ngata literally broke Big Ben's nose, and the Steelers wanted even more blood during the playoffs. But by halftime of the divisional round, it looked like all hope was lost. Ravens were up 21-7. Then at long last, James Harrison started drilling Joe Flacco. In 15 minutes, the Steelers stormed all the way back to take it 31-24. After the 2010 humiliation, Baltimore must have gone through the hardest training arc of all time. In 2011, they beat the Steelers 35-7. Then again, 23-20. Not only did they avenge themselves, they swept the Steelers for the first time since their rivalry began.
That's crazy.
And
What a
finally,
rivalry, bro.
the Ravens shifted the balance back to Baltimore. In 2012, the two teams split regular season meetings, but Baltimore went on to the playoffs for a run of a lifetime. They knocked off Denver in a double OT, took out the Patriots, and won the Super Bowl with Flacco as MVP. From 2008 to 2012, Steelers-Ravens were the nastiest rivalry in the NFL, but Giants and Eagles have been going at it since 1933. Their very first meeting, New York shut out Philly 56-0 at the Polo Grounds. The response? Nothing. The Eagles were the Giants' punching bag for all of the 30s. Then they saw a few wins during the 40s. By the time the 50s hit, it was back pure Giants domination.
Wow, so I didn't know that we used to dominate them. I literally hate the Eagles, bro.
But if you know anything about
I'm
Philly,
a Giants
it's
fan.
that you know they don't handle losing well.
Yo.
Finn got sent to the shadow realm by Eagles linebacker Chuck Bednarik.
Chuck Bednarik nearly killing Frank Gifford.
You wonder in today's world how many people remember the Gifford-Bednarik hit.
That single hit knocked Gifford out of ball for a whole year, basically defined his entire career. Right after the hit, though, Bednarik just stood over him, looking like death itself staring Gifford in the face. And after that Eagles dub, the rivalry only escalated. In 1972, the Giants dropped 62 points on Philly, which is still the most they've ever scored in a single game.
Wow.
But after the Bednarik hit, Philly knew they could deliver a smackdown. So in 1981, they drafted Lawrence Taylor, undebatably the most terrifying linebacker in NFL history.
Yeah.
The terror he showed to other teams, it was nothing compared to the Eagles. Because who was his favorite target? Eagles QB Ron Jaworski, who LT sacked an unreal 13 times.
Let's go!
And in their wild card fight that year, LT bullied the Eagles offense the whole game, forced turnovers, and damn near single-handedly got them to their first playoff win in 18 years. But the Eagles, stubborn as hell, came back strong. Buddy Ryan took over mid-decade, and his 46 defense brought the nest. And by the 90s, both teams were just trading blows. 99 saw the Giants come back from a 17-3 deficit, and then seal the game with a walk-off interception return in overtime from Michael Strahan. But Philly had the ultimate trump card. In 1996, they drafted Brian Dawkins, the heart of their secondary. And by the 2000s, he was leading a defense that made the Giants' life miserable. The Giants got their one playoff run in 2002. That was the last time they even mattered in the rivalry, and even in the NFL. You might hear that they've won
watch
15...
your mouth. Watch your freaking mouth, you. Hold on, I love you, bro, but you bugging out. We won a Super Bowl in 2007 and 2011, bro. Watch your mouth, bro. What's wrong with you, bro? You bugging out, gang. Talking about irrelevant. We just won with Jackson Dart last week. Come on, bro. You bugging out. Yo, Nate, bleep out those cuss words, gang. My fault, bro. This man just made me mad, bro. Talking about irrelevant. What? We the New York Giants, bro. This is New York football.
Games since 2000. And at first glance, that doesn't seem too bad. But then you realize that's 15 out of 53. The Eagles have won the rest. At this point, the only thing keeping this rivalry alive is pure rage and revenge. That would have to be the Cowboys and 49ers.
They met 7 times in the playoffs, and 6 of them were in the conference championship round.
In the 70s, the Cowboys had enemies everywhere. Oh yeah, these teams were goated. They were so good, they were Super Bowl gatekeepers. But not just for a few. They went head-to-head in 2 NFC championships and a divisional playoff game, all of which the Cowboys won. And as we know, Cowboys were unstoppable in the 70s. So they went on to win every single matchup through 1980. But in 1981, they met for the 3rd time at the NFC Championship. And for the first time in over a decade, the tide shifted. But San Francisco's comeback was the most clever thing they'd ever done, because after the catch, they also won the Super Bowl. And suddenly, America's team became America's afterthought. Because if they couldn't stop the winning in the 70s, they also couldn't stop the losing in the 80s. The Cowboys were dying. I mean, the 49ers alone beat them in every single game all the way up to 1990. Jerry Jones wasn't about to let Dallas die. By the late 80s, he'd bought the team, fired legendary coach Tom Landry, and hired Jimmy Johnson. Then came the move that changed the NFL forever, the Herschel Walker trade. Dallas shipped their monstrous, one-of-a-kind running back to the Vikings in 1989, and in return got a baker's dozen of draft picks and players. It looked insane at the time, but that gamble started the Cowboys' comeback. But if that seemed insane, what Jones did next was straight up diabolical. He poached Charles Haley from the 49ers, a defensive end who wanted out of SF, and who ultimately became the Cowboys' secret weapon. After a straight decade of losses, the Cowboys were back, and in 1992, the power shifted again. Dallas smacked San Francisco in the NFC Championship, and then steamrolled Buffalo in the Super Bowl. Before SF even had time to figure out what hit them, it was 1993, and they were back in the NFC Championship, and back again facing the Cowboys. This time, Cowboys weren't just ready for a win, they were ready to send SF back to the goal.
Man, I really hate the Cowboys so much, bro.
Rush. I mean, they were so cocky that Jimmy Johnson called a radio show before the game, guaranteed a win over the Niners, and then deliver. Another NFC Championship, another Super Bowl win for the Cowboys. And if that wasn't enough, the 49ers' old teammate Charles Haley became an NFL legend overnight. But this arms race was far from over. After back-to-back nationally televised losses during the biggest peak football had ever seen, the 49ers had hit a breaking point. In 1994, 49ers owner Eddie DeBartolo spent money like he was going out of style, because he rebuilt the defense with a $30 million bag to secure the crown jewel, Deion Primetime Sanders.
Friends, the show has just begun.
And with that, this wasn't even a rivalry anymore. It was war. In the 94 playoffs, the 49ers finally struck back. Steve Young threw straight bullets. Eric Davis intercepted Troy Aikman, and the Cowboys looked like they were screwed. The Niners were up 21-0. In the third quarter, Dallas answered with a score. Then SF answered with a score as well. Dallas tries to answer again, and the $30 million Sanders knocks it down. After one final useless drive, the Cowboys accept their fate and lose 38-28. San Francisco then went on to crush the Chargers in the Super Bowl, but for once, it looked like balance. But it wasn't. In 1995, Deion left SF. But that wouldn't have been a big deal if he didn't leave for Dallas. That season, the Cowboys reclaimed the NFC, reclaimed the Super Bowl, and finished their dynasty with 3 rings in 4 years. Meanwhile, San Francisco faded. For years after, Cowboys-Niners was a relic, nothing more than a highlight reel from the 80s and 90s. Well, with one infamous exception, because in 2000, Terrell Owens reignited the hate for one last time when he scored a touchdown, sprinted to the middle of the field, and planted himself right on the Dallas Sacred Star logo. Later in the game, he went to do it again.
He tried to do it again. He got hit.
This time, the Cowboys were not having it.
Boom!
George Teague absolutely blasted it, but not before T.O. had burned that image into NFL lore forever. And by doing that, he gave the 49ers one last cheap shot at the Cowboys before fading out in the 2000s. But nothing's ever truly dead and gone in football. And in recent years, the 49ers have been making waves again. They even got to take home the dub against the Cowboys in 2021 and in 2022 in the playoffs. And if the Cowboys find another secret weapon, it'll only be a matter of time until this legendary rivalry makes a comeback.
That makes sense. Now, that was a good video, bro. It was cool hearing all the history. Like, I wasn't really talking much because I was really just paying attention. Like, that was a lot of history, bro. I learned a lot. I did not know about a lot of those rivalries, man. So, especially like the Saints and the Falcons, I didn't even know about that. That was cool. And it's cool how it's about, like, you know, the city pride, bro. It's interesting, man. Football is the greatest sport, in my opinion, bro. I love football so much. I know soccer's probably the biggest and stuff, but, and WWE maybe, but the NFL to me is lit, bro. You know what I'm saying? I love it, bro. But hey, man, make sure you guys always put God first. Remember that you are chosen, so move like it. See y'all in the next one. It's your boy, Eli Mack. Gang, gang. Giants are the best team in the NFL and definitely the best team in the NFC East. The Cowboys suck. The Redskins suck. The Eagles suck. If you got a problem, go in the comments and we can fight about it.